I think that is what becomes harmful. Something that I was struck by as I was doing research for this video, going through the Men Going Their Own Way subreddit and kind of just trying to get as good faith representation of their ideas as I could, was that my original understanding of what their understanding of the world was dated. So the overall swing of the movement has pretty much remained the same. There's basically this notion that for myriad reasons, women are not worth the financial, emotional, other types of investment that would be required to have a romantic relationship with them. There's definitely always been like a pretty good variety of reasons that men go their own way. Some of them come from it out of the men's rights movement, where they, point to things like alimony or child support and paternity fraud as being reasons that they don't want to have romantic relationships with women. Other ones point more particularly to behavioral things about women, like particularly promiscuity tends to be a really big one, and disloyalty. And, the levels of engagement that they deem appropriate vary from person to person. There are some men going their own way who believe that no level of interaction with women is worth it, because they believe that even the most basic interactions with women, in a sexual way, require some level of financial investment, which they don't believe is worth it. But other ones among them believe that casual sex is an ideal strategy because they're avoiding marriage, which is the real scam. And there are even some I saw while I was perusing the subreddit that are even in long-term relationships, they're just avoiding marriage, particularly. To the lattermost group, I'm really curious why you guys don't just get prenuptials, though. Maybe you have a philosophical disagreement to marriage, and I can understand that, but that wasn't coming through for me when I was reading the post. So any clarification on that would be excellent. Back in the day when I was going around the subreddit, there was this kind of general understanding that this is not a permanent situation, or at least that it doesn't have to be. The idea is that the way that women behave now, the promiscuity, the duplicity, the lack of loyalty, those things are a result of feminism or liberalism or just, rising lack of, religion, whatever, pick your poison. As a result of whatever thing that is, women are behaving badly, whereas in the past, they used to be better. They used to be worth marrying. There used to be respectable, good women. There was a hope by a lot of these men, it seemed, that by restricting women's access to romantic relationships and support, women would return to acting better and would be worth engaging in relationships with again. A lot of this was kind of exemplified by the fact that many of these men saw that, Asian women or Eastern European women made more suitable partners. And so that kind of implies that there is a cultural reason for women not being worth marrying in the West particularly.
I can attest that there is a distinct cultural difference between East and West. I've anecdotally heard about Eastern European women being much more compatible partners with the men. I have no personal experience with that. But yes, basically romantic entanglement with Western women is out of the question. Obviously men will date and have casual sex with women. As to living with women, with the prenuptial agreement issue, there are a lot of jurisdictions that don't recognise prenuptial agreements, and I think you'll find a lot of the time the woman's the one that wants the cohabitation. The man's just along for the ride most of the time. I don't think he knows what he's getting into if he's not careful. I certainly don't recommend it. None of the men I know would recommend cohabitation with women on any scale. It's just out of the question. And that's to do with the legal system. So yeah, as far as relationships with women go, you're better off just not getting involved with Western women at all. That's the predominant view of the MGTOW I know.
That messaging was hopeful, I guess, in its own way, because it kind of it rested on this idea that there are ways for men to have positive romantic relationships with women that are worthwhile. It's just not right now, or not with Western women. The big thing that's changed there is actually kind of interesting for me, because I kind of wanted to make these videos with the premise that there were these huge cavernous differences between the different men's groups. And I do still think that in their strategy for how to react to whatever they believe the circumstances of the world are, I still believe that that is a really core difference. But I didn't realize how similar the worldview had kind of become. Now, looking at the Men Going Their Own Way subreddit, it's very clear that there is a much higher level of support for the more red pill idea that women are naturally not worth engaging in relationships with.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Women are naturally not worth engaging with, for me, on any level, intellectual, social, physical. So, yeah, fully agree with you on that point. And I think it's interesting, why have men come to this conclusion? And I'm talking about independently arriving at this decision to go MGTOW all over the world. All right? I've had comments on my tiny little channel here from men all over the world, South America, Central America, USA, plenty of MGTOW in USA, Canada, UK. I'm from Australia, Ireland. So there's MGTOW all over the world independently coming to the conclusion that they don't want women in their lives. And I can attest that there's men who don't know anything about MGTOW who arrive at that decision. Then they go on to live their lives independently of MGTOW. They don't know anything about it for years until they stumble across it on the internet. So it is interesting. It's very interesting. And I'd like to hear what you've got to say on the subject. Why is it that men are saying we don't want to have anything to do with Western women? Why do you think that is? Is it men? Or could it possibly be the women?
It ends up being just a vastly more cynical idea you could imagine, because if you believe that the reason that you don't want to engage in romantic relationships with women is hard-coded into them, that means that there is no changing it. What this kind of suggests is that back in the day when women were worth dating, that was just because they were under control. And on a fundamental level, when left to their own devices, they will become bad.
Well, that's a typical feminist viewpoint there. Back in the day, women were under control, and when left to their own devices, they'll go bad. Men have never controlled women. That's a myth. And certainly back in the day, and let's not go too far back, let's have a look at the 1970s, 1960s. Feminism back then was a different kettle of fish. Right? The feminists back then wanted freedom. They wanted to be able to take risks. Okay? They were pushing boundaries. That's not what's happening today. You've got safe spaces and pronouns and all the rest of it. You can't say anything against a woman because you're a misogynist if you do. So, yeah, as far as the MGTOW go, we're not agitating for change. And you're right in saying there is no way back. And I can say that wholeheartedly, and I think all MGTOW agree with me on this one, is that once you get that taste of freedom and you're off the plantation, I mean, what slave has ever wanted to go back to slavery? No, once you get that taste of freedom and you understand what MGTOW is and the joy of life as a MGTOW, there is no way back. And the women can't change to go back. There isn't a way back for women. Okay, accept that, and it's not men's fault. You can't blame men for that. Men have made this MGTOW decision and taken on the lifestyle, and we do what we can to make our lives better. And it's about discipline and bettering yourself and setting goals and achieving goals in life. It's not about what the women think. Okay, once the women are out of the picture, they're out of the picture. Not coming back.
One of the really unfortunate ideas that comes from this is they fundamentally will believe that women are incapable of experiencing love for men. And so they believe that even if women are able to be less promiscuous, be more loyal, be better mothers, be more domestic, even if they become perfect partners again, it'll all just be fake. It will be a strategy that they are using in order to secure resources.
So there's two issues there, and you're conflating them. Men don't question a woman's ability to feel love. Okay, that's what you're doing there, is othering women on MGTOW's behalf, sort of insinuating that MGTOW believe women are subhuman, and that is not the case. That doesn't enter into MGTOW thinking at all. But yes, I agree with you that even if women change their tune, change their behaviour, men, MGTOW in particular, are not going to accept that they're capable of actually changing. There's the trust issue there, you see, and a respect issue from a male point of view. So yeah, no matter what women do now, from now on in the West, there is no going back for the MGTOW. And yes, it is about just seeing it as a strategy to get resources. Now, I'm going to say one, and I've had this discussion with women, so I'm not just sitting there reading the subreddit, believing that I understand MGTOW, or understand women for that matter. No, I've had this conversation with several women, and that is, they agree that women do not marry for love. Women the terms they couched it in were security or financial security. So that's what a woman looks for in a marriage: it's financial security or security, so resources. So yeah, fundamentally, women do not marry for love. That doesn't mean they won't fall in love, right? But that's irrelevant to the bloke she marries. He's the one who she's married for his resources, and whether or not she loves him, that's irrelevant to her. I'm sure there are women out there who would like to fall in love with their husbands. I've never known it to happen in the West. So, yeah, don't think that MGTOW are subhumaning or othering women by claiming that they don't feel love. That's never been the question.
Kind of like the really cynical idea that many people have about pets. Like they don't actually love you, you have the food, so they act like they love you so that you give them food.